Drip, drip, drip. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, at this point, it's, basically 10 o'clock Eastern time. Do we really know that there aren't more classified documents folded up in one of Biden's old bicycle baskets? Or maybe stuffed in one of his dog's beds? I mean, anything's possible. And during a week when the Biden administration had hoped to be celebrating lower inflation numbers, it's instead having to make inconvenient announcements. Now, just look at the pained expression on Merrick Garland's face today when he announced the appointment of a special counsel to investigate Biden's possession of classified documents. Now, Garland was painted into a corner here. First, after the U.S. attorney investigating this matter recommended a special counsel, what was he going to do? But second, because he appointed one in the Trump matter. In August, the DOJ seized on Trump's storage of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, claiming that this raised serious questions over everything from possible criminal wrongdoing to compromised intel sources to even treason. But understand this. Merrick Garland doesn't believe Biden did anything wrong, and he won't change his mind regardless of what we learn. And ditto for most of the American media. Because remember, there's no scandal here. This is Biden, after all. But if there's a scandal, it's that Biden and his administration spent the past 2 years trying to smear his predecessor, as the media ignored the long-standing corruption of Biden, Inc. Long before the Hunter Biden laptop story that they dismissed and ignored, the American press was fully aware that the Biden family had been on the take for many years. They've known that Hunter was being paid millions by foreign interests, including China, because of his daddy's position. And they still won't demand the names of the anonymous buyers of his lousy paintings to this day. And today, the only reason the press, the White House, and the DOJ are worried about Biden's docugate is because of the possible fallout politically for Biden. And because they lacerated Trump over the records issue for months and months, they have to at least pretend to be consistent and press the White House on some obvious questions. Like, why did these records even come to light 6 years after Biden left office as VP?
At the podium. When the search started and why they were searching in the first place? Was the president concerned that there may be classified documents? Did someone tip them off? What sparked this?
Again, I'm just not going to go into details from here. I'm not going to go into specifics from here.
Now, why is this? Why can't she go through a simple timeline? I'll tell you why. The White House is once again being hoisted on its own petard here. In their desperate woke desire to name the first lesbian minority to be White House press secretary, they ignored some basic facts. A White House press secretary has to be trusted to be able to think on her feet.
Was the president sloppy in his handling of classified material?
The president and his lawyers acted promptly upon discovery of this mistake. I'm going to leave it there.
Why were these classified documents being stored in his garage?
Look, again, and not just me, he has said this. You have heard the president say this twice already, and he's said this before, classified documents and information. He takes that very seriously.
Is she blinking out a Morse code? Help there? I'm not. Now, we're supposed to believe that a president who claims to know nothing about documents stored for years in unsecured locations can be believed? Documents in his own garage and in his office? That president takes the handling of classified information very seriously. I don't even think the press secretary believes this, especially given what Biden just said a few months ago.
You saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago. What did you think to yourself?
How that could possibly happen. How anyone could be that irresponsible. It's just totally irresponsible.
Totally irresponsible. If only Trump had stored the documents near, I don't know, a garage 68 Mercedes 280 SL.
Classified material next to your Corvette? What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but anyway.
It was in a locked garage?
Yes, as well as my Corvette.
Okay. Could there be anything more insulting to our intelligence than that response? But just as our own Peter Doocy was getting somewhere with Biden, the president's media poodles jumped in for the rescue.
How's the first lady, sir? How's the first lady?
She's doing really well. She's up. We had breakfast this morning.
What'd you have for breakfast? Was it good? How do you like your eggs? The deflected distraction game, it's so obvious to all of you who've been following how the DC media has shielded Biden for decades. From failing to press the White House about the president's cognitive state, to their refusal to believe his son and siblings have gotten extremely wealthy by trading off Biden's roles in government.
The U.S. authorities are seeing if those emails we just talked about are connected to an ongoing Russian disinformation effort.
It is so obviously a Russian operation.
All of a sudden, two and a half weeks before the election, this laptop appears somehow.
And even as the media is forced to repeat about the Biden documents what they said about the Trump documents, that they could compromise national security, there's always a but to help minimize potential damage to the big guy.
Analysts say the documents found in President Biden's stash that were marked top secret could compromise national security if they fell into the wrong hands. But they also say this kind of mistake likely isn't unprecedented.
It's not. It likely isn't unusual. And now that a special counsel's been appointed, you can bet the press will pretty quickly pivot to covering their preferred stories, like George Santos and the Proud Boys. But if I were in the press gallery, here are a few questions I'd ask. First, and this goes to the chain of custody question regarding these documents, will the White House disclose visitor logs of everyone who went into Biden's Wilmington residence and everyone who entered his Penn Center office? That log would cover the day the documents were brought there all the way to the day they were removed. Second, do any of the documents refer to Biden family members, their business interests, including Burisma, either directly or indirectly? And third, where are those leaked photos of the documents splayed out on the floor once they were secured by federal authorities? Remember? They look good in the Mar-a-Lago, right? After all, someone at the FBI had no problem releasing pictures of all of Trump's classified documents. It was so dramatic. Now, pay close attention to how all of this plays out, because everyone's credibility in Biden's political viability, already severely damaged, is on the line here. If only the supposed professionals who are supposed to be checks on authority acted as such. And if only the DOJ was blind in the pursuit of justice and didn't crave an indictment of Donald Trump. If only we had a president who cared more about what was good for the country and less about how to protect his family's corrupt business interests. But in the end, the truth eventually will come out. Drip, drip, drip. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.